to welcome here the Pan-African Bliss Show.
Yes, massive wagwan. Andrew Robinson, your Jamaican brother there. Reaching out to all the massive on the African continent. And you're tuning into the Pan-African Bliss Show with your host, none other than Joby. From Monday to Friday. Stay tuned. Andrew Robinson, no respect to justice for all big up man.
Somina, unanibamba so kitoto, fanya haraka uwai, inaoroso umepitiliza, follow me go, tamu chokoleto, ngome umepatia, siyayona ya kuasilia, you can count on me love, ukinitaji niko, omoninga, oh baby. Say my name, anytime you want me come around, say my name, anytime you don't have to call, say my name, anywhere you want to come around, say my name, I drop it and then pick it up, baby make a shake it like you want, shake it up, baby margarita with a shot of tequila, then I pull up on you. Baby, I'm happy, we can be fancy. I need more. This kind of love, nimetafuta sijapata jawabu, nimeshapima kafeli hesabu, wanasema chini ya jua hakuna ajabu, ila kama jini umenasa, maana upepo wako umenikoroga, kila chocho ukipinda wanapinda, shingo zao zavunjika, sijiganisha nini, kweli mapenzi chakula cha moyo, kanitala akili, aniendesha kabasi la Islando, aniwe utaniua wewe, mtoto mweza, utaniua
Yes, family, karibuni sana to another beautiful weekend. Of course, good morning, good afternoon, whatever the time is on your end. Welcome to another session of the Pan-African Bliss. And of course, listening to the number one international online radio station, the Black Fire Network radio station, the media of the 21st century. I want to big up a very quick shout out to everyone with us on Facebook. Those who shall be catching this on a replay, also on YouTube, on Rumble, and of course, every of our streaming platform. In case you do not have our application, I'd love to remind you, you can find us on the Google Play Store. And of course, it takes just less than 1 minute of your time. Get to download the Black Fire Network app and of course, stream live with us. And like I keep on saying, one thing I love about our app, it gives you the opportunity to literally be able to use WhatsApp, other social networks as you still literally stick through with us. And of course, that is on the Black Fire Network app. Karibuni sana once again. My name is Joby, in case you're here for the first time. And of course, I'd love you to subscribe in case you are on the Keith Newsome channel or whatever platform you are streaming with us from. And of course, get to enjoy today's show. Let me know also, how was your weekend? Mine was fantastic. I can't complain. It was my birthday. And of course, I'm still celebrating it, taking all the way to Mombasa. I'm still in the vibe of my birthday, literally. Turn 2, big 5. And of course, I'm proud, massive growth. And I'm literally proud. And of course, giving gratitude back to everyone who also did get to donate gifts to me. And that is via the network. I really appreciate you. Jiba Jabba, we got Sankenwan, we got K Williams. Shout out to you. It's been a long time, but it's crazy how just K Williams popped out and popped in with birthday gifts literally during my birthday. But I really appreciate you. And of course, it's nice to know that you're really doing amazing. I hope I also hope people like Big Cheese are also doing okay, because it's really, really shocking when you guys just disappear and you pop out of nowhere. But we are literally blessed to have you as this part of amazing network. Today, shall be talking about what is happening in the western parts of Africa that is basically surrounding Burkina Faso, Guinea Bissau. We also want to talk about Nigeria, Niger, and Mali. So stick through till the end of the show, because our major focus shall be going to Guinea Bissau. There was an attempted coup, and this is something very, very surprising to me. And not actually, this is the second time. I don't know if there was an attempted coup last time when we had the African leaders attending these meetings that they always go attend. I remember it was in Gabon. We also had in Congo, where there was an attempted coup a few months ago. And of course, we saw the countries coming for the presidents who are selected, coming forth and, defending this and saying that these countries are not coup countries. I'll be reading an article today, something explaining down and of course, through the history, how coups have been taking place in Africa, how the West has been involved. I'll be giving my opinion about it, and of course, I'll be also be talking about where we've seen there's these literally organizations that have always been created and funded to fight terrorism in Africa. But how comes it's never ended? Because shout out to Burkina Faso again, Mali and Niger, they have withdrawn from all this. So those are among the 5 big topics we shall be talking about. We shall tackle where we can. If we can, the rest we shall tackle tonight on the Africa Today show. But nonetheless, karibuni sana once again. That was Otile Brown with Sunina. And personally, if you know me, I love me some Otile Brown. But of course, we're getting back to one more banger. I'll be coming back with the quote of the day. And of course, you can also keep me motivated in case you have anything positive. We just began September, and it is exactly 11 minutes past 1. Numerological numbers. If you know how the power of numbers, literally, which we're talking about some time here ago, make use of that. But karibuni sana once again. Back to the music. This is by the one and only Femi One Kulia Kushoto. Hope you guys get to enjoy this. We're playing best of the 254 right here, and I hope you guys get to enjoy. Once again, for those who are also with me on TikTok, karibuni sana. I say Stephanie. Shout out to Maya for tapping the screen. I appreciate you. And to everyone who shall be catching this on a replay once again, I hope you get to enjoy.
You are my sons and daughters playing a part. Keep the Guinea Bissau, get to my shy, I'm Femi Uno. Vidina skill, Kitegla, Borupe, Kismat me excellent, Shople una feel. Pretender, sishtuke, dosta kapenda. Shipment for flight, chapo kiatokea frima. Geta kotet, nikitajwa na heshima. Breathe in, release, mapema. Jichunge, tenda na pressure. Frequent inflets, niko junk tafuta pesa. Treatment ni right, nikipula kwa sector. Decent na mic wanabuya nkitema. Mistake kutry kuvuruga, utahema. 10 years ago nilikuwa juu ya double decker. Growth mekwa slow, looking back na jicheka. Kwa njia ya mziki ongatam kiteseka. Industry queen wanangam nikibweka. Kulia kushoto, napita kati. Femini moto, hotea na mbali. Mama watoto, alia machali. Najua musoto, mishtui na mali. Nafanya mziki, nafanya kazi. Natamba mjini, uskinko ndani. Leptoka mwiki, badi wa mtani. Nairobi City, tangu zamani, yeah. Watu si wajinga usijitesa kuna notisi na kula tunamezea. Sima gig, sima show, sima brand, Jonathan unyamazeni kiongea.
Yes, Demo Wiki, that's the album. And of course, that is done by the one and only Femi One. And I hope you guys are banging onto that. And of course, I'm back with my quote of the day today. It says, this year will not end the same way as the last, because you've grown from pain, from struggles, learned from your mistakes, cultivated your passion, worked on your dreams, experienced ups and downs. So this time it will be different, amazing, and of course that is my quote of the day. In case you feel like this year has been a wasted year towards you, you don't really have to beat yourself down. There's something actually personally I've learned very hard on this year, beating myself down. I think I'm really, really strong on that. I beat myself down a couple of times, and I'm really working towards it, even if sometimes it's hard, to especially encounter the negative thoughts, I'd say, because negative thoughts don't lie. They always flash in your minds, okay? We are full of positivity, of course, but we as humans, you'll always have negative thoughts just flashing in your mind. So personally, I'm learning as the year ends, and of course, get to approach 2024 to literally stop beating myself down, accepting the challenges. Like I said, this has been a year of challenges, and I've learned through a lot. And one of it, I'll repeat again, that has been the biggest challenge is being a boss again under people. That is one of the things that I've really grown from, learning how to take other things, learning how to respond. And I'm still learning because it's a learning curve. But anyway, back to the music. I'm coming back. I see people on YouTube. Karibuni sana. Kindly hit that like button. I'm on the check who's doing so. And of course, karibuni sana as we get started with today's conversation. I'm coming back with some news and updates from South Africa, where we can see children being kidnapped. And this is becoming a norm in Africa, where we see children just being found in some certain areas. Nobody gets to address these issues, not even the president.
Wako wameketi over there na mapepo ibada na zikemea mapanda wetuzawea ukosi kwa panganga na umbea na tukoni wasani tukitokea lasta ni perform bado unapohatikiwa slowly at the top chapa kazi utafikiwa.
The Black Fire Radio.
Yes, and of course, welcome back. That is Femi One, and the name of the jam is Kuliaku Shoto, and that was an album released actually this year. And this has been also a year of competition in terms of music. I'm personally proud of seeing our African artists. We've had new artists on the game who we fell in love with, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Kenya, from South Africa. When now, my people, but anyway, that is what has been happening. I don't know for you how the year has been, for those who are with us on the chat on WhatsApp, no, not WhatsApp, but on Facebook, on YouTube. You can also hit us on WhatsApp. That is +254 705 428 for those who are with us, and of course also on TikTok. Karibuni sana, check it done. Karibu sana, hope you're doing amazing, and of course thank you so much for tuning in. Unasikizia maeneo gani, and how has your year been? What are the challenges you've encountered, or the lessons you've learned throughout 2023? But straight to the matters of the day, I want to start and enlighten what is happening in South Africa, where we have a number of children who have been rescued in a major anti-trafficking operation. And of course, this is in South Africa. There's a lot that has been happening. I think also last week, there's a report Katie was given on Tuesday, which I wanted to talk about, but she did talk about it. And that was, I think, in part of Zimbabwe. I'm not sure, but last week we also had a number of children, adults who are rescued because of, they were stuck somewhere. And of course, this also comes with a lot of suspicions and all that. I didn't follow much of it. But what is happening in South Africa? They're saying that South Africa authorities have intercepted dozens of buses transporting 443 children, all under the age of 8, into the country from the neighboring Zimbabwe. Just to stop and just to hang out on that before I continue. You remember there's a video Keith made me share with you guys some time back, and I think majority of you also know the story, in Chad, where we saw a number of children who are rescued in a plane. And apparently the government of Chad came out and said, was it in Chad or Malawi? I'm not sure of the two, but I think it was in Chad, to be specific. Let me look at that. It was in Chad, where we had a number of children, multiple of children, and that they were rescued in a plane. And they said that they didn't know where these children came from. And of course, again, that created suspension, which no one even up to date has given answers. If I'm certain the case was to be followed up. I was reading something about the International Criminal Court, just to divert a little bit, and it brings a lot of questions why a lot of cases are never answered. I was reading the facts behind why the International Criminal Court was created, and I think once I get the whole understanding correctly, I might be sharing it today on the Africa Today show as we get to learn more, because how many cases? But back to South Africa. South Africa authorities have intercepted dozens of buses transporting 43 children, all under the age of 8, into the country from neighboring Zimbabwe. And this follows a sting operation conducted by the South African Border Management Authority and the police at the Belt Bridge, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Belt Bridge, border post on Saturday night. BMA, which is the Border Management Authority, Commissioner Michelle Masipiato said over 40 buses conveying the children were stopped at the northern gate of the border of the busy border posts with Zimbabwe before they entered South Africa. And he said, although the children had passports, they were traveling without parents, guardians, and permission letters as regulations required. The bus drivers claimed the children were going to play sports. Indeed. But reports said that they were sent by the Zimbabwe grandparents to their parents in South Africa. Really? Really? How comes the parents in South Africa are not aware? How comes the government of South Africa or the Border Management Authority, the parents are not aware that they are supposed to be receiving? Actually, how comes the parents are not aware that they're supposed to be receiving the children at the border? That is just the number one question. If so, they claim that the children were sent by the Zimbabwe grandparents to their parents in South Africa. That is a lie. Okay? That is a lie. That is according to me, and you are allowed to give your own opinion. Okay? That is a lie. Without children's consent, the parents' consent, the guardians' consent. Yes, they do have the passport. But how many cases, again, I think we discussed this. This is actually kind of, it needs to be digged in between, because majority of the cases we've seen of child trafficking, actually they go without even any documents. So this one, at least I can see a little bit of the courtesy where they did attempt to hide the whole situation with them having passports. We've discussed of where these children are taken away with no documentation. We've seen so many people, shout out to Madonna. We've seen so many people who have created these charity foundations right here in Africa and what they're capable of. We've seen. But let's continue. They're saying that the children were being trafficked. This is what Mr. Masipieto said. Of course, the Border Management Authority, and adding that they contacted officials in Zimbabwe and have sent the children back to the country. He said human trafficking. Actually, this is wrong. These children, if possible, this case should have been held at the border. If, I don't know, but sending them back, personally, I don't think if this is how they should handle the situation. I believe there should be serious investigations taken by both the countries. South Africa actually being the major one, because the children were going to South Africa. To whose parents? Which parent has the child or their children under the age of 8? And we're talking about 443 children. Make this make sense to me. 443 children just going with 40 buses into South Africa. No parents' consent. And since when in Africa, because personally I feel like even the acquiring of passports, I want to understand what really happened, because majority of children in Africa under this age, even majority of the children, not even the people themselves, don't have passports. So how are you going to tell me 443 children have all of them passports, which is, I'm not saying it's impossible, but without their parents' consent of them going to the country? Something is fishy. And of course, like he said, the children are being trafficked. We know South Africa as majority. We know it has so many white people. We have no idea what businesses is going on there. I'm just saying. But we have so much going on in South Africa. Am I shocked? No. And I'm going to share this with the Chad situation. But they're saying, yes, let me read this again. The children were trafficked and the children were being trafficked. That is the border management that gave the information, adding that they contacted officials in Zimbabwe and have sent the children back to the country. He said human trafficking was becoming a serious issue and promised to continue conducting operations during the festive season. Over 1 million Zimbabweans live and work in South Africa. And of course, there's a time I remember in 2021, I remember Spikes and I were giving these reports where we saw a lot of, actually, it was Zimbabweans. Yeah, they were being chased out of South Africa because of their visas had expired. So they were told they cannot even get any job opportunities over there, no more working and all that. A lot of xenophobic shit that is happening. But they're saying over 1 million Zimbabweans live and work in South Africa, and it is believed that the children are going to join their parents for the Christmas holidays after closure of school. South Africans have grappled with a wave of illegal migrants entering and the country through the northern border of Zimbabwe. Well, this was not illegal migrant entering because they were coming through the border, and something is very, very fishy. There's no way. Something is just fishy. That's how I'm going to leave it. This was trafficking, and that's how simple we can leave it at. This was pure child trafficking that was happening right here. And that's it. And to add the top salt on the injury, because I've just seen news coming in, there is 33 trafficking victims that have been found in a certain house. And of course, this is by the South Africa Rescue. They're saying that the South Africa police have rescued 33 victims of suspected human trafficking after they were found cramped in a room. And one suspect has been arrested in relation on the Sunday evening incident. And it said KwaZulu-Natal detectives were investigating a trafficking syndicate after a foreign national was kidnapped in Springfield, Durban last week. A foreign national. No, not even about the children. Investigations led the police to the house in Benoni and working together with other national police specialized units. The house was tactically penetrated and 33 male victims were found cramped in the house and one suspect was arrested. The ages of the victims are yet to be confirmed and the suspect will soon appear in court, the police have said. So this is a different case where you can see the syndicate leads to the foreign national who was kidnapped, but not the children. But what links to this, where we can see the children being taken all the way from Zimbabwe in the name of coming to see their parents in South Africa. I mean, come on. We're not children anymore. The mainstream media, we want to tell you we're not children anymore. Okay, this is BBC. You should understand whatever you're putting outside here right now. Africans are collecting information. We know that you've been lying. That's how I'm just going to say it. Okay, simple like that. This become a business in Africa. Let me share that very quickly before I get to move on. The Chad situation. I think it is in Chad, not Malawi. Children found in an airport. Let me see. Children found in an airport in Chad. Allow. All right, this one is not working. Let me just write it down. Children rescued. I should say children rescued. Well, I can't see. I can't remember if it's Malawi. Family, if you're on the chat and you remember if it is Malawi or Chad, let me know. I think it is in between those two countries, but my memory, I remember it was Chad. But apparently, I think the video was pulled down, apparently. Rescued in Chad airport. Well, I can't find it, but that is what is happening. I remember it was the similar case where we had a number of children. Let me try Malawi, but I think it was Chad where we had a number of children trafficked. So personally, just to conclude on the issue of South Africa, I believe this is a norm. This has become a norm. And something needs to be done. At this point, I can't say there's any court to be relied on in Africa that can deal with this kind of investigations because they are all corrupt, all the same setup system that is never meant to work, especially when it comes to matters involving Africa and the children and the people. We've seen that there's no justice that is ever prevailed for African people. We're going to see the same maybe in news next year. We're going to report such kind of similarities of such kind of information where a number of children have been rescued. It is literally even barely a week. I remember Katie was reporting this on Tuesday on the African Diary, where we had a number of people, not really, I can't remember if it was really leading to trafficking, but it is always the similar situation. Who's to blame? That is the question. Who's to be held accountable? Another question. How are investigations taken so seriously when it comes to our African people? Another question. Who's in charge of our own matters? Because it's never us. That's just the conclusion of everything. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, welcome to those who are just joining us on YouTube. I see a number of you. Kindly, again, hit that like button. Kindly. And subscribe if in case you haven't, especially if you are on the Keith Newsome channel. If you're on the Blackout Fire and you've not subscribed as well, kindly do so. If you're on Facebook, also do follow us and do also download our app on the Google Play Store. I'm talking about what is happening in South Africa, where we had a number of 443 children rescued, and this is coming. They were coming from Zimbabwe going to South Africa, and apparently the government of Zimbabwe says that these children are going to see their parents. But on this other hand, you can see in South Africa there's 33 suspected human traffickers who have been arrested, and 33 have been rescued, and of course a suspect has been arrested. As 33 have been rescued, and of course one has been arrested. Let me repeat that again. So the all information is that this has been happening in South Africa and of course the rest of the African countries, but who's to be held accountable again? That is just the question. On this other hand, as we get to move on a little bit, like I said, today we shall be talking about what is happening in the western parts of Africa, and this is including Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and of course we've seen also Guinea Bissau, which shall be our major focus, where there has been an attempted coup over the weekend, and this was when the president was away for the climate change meeting that is in Dubai. But on this other hand, Niger and Burkina Faso have finally withdrawn from the anti-Islamic force, and of course this is something positive to report. We are glad to see. We've been talking for so long, I think, since the coup in Niger, and reporting what has been happening in the western parts of Africa. We've seen them being sanctioned in a couple of stuff. We've seen them being denied lights, especially in Niger, that is by Nigeria. And shout out to the president of Nigeria, because he went ahead today and said, this was actually 16 hours ago, he called on the release, Nigeria is calling on for the release of the ousted Niger president, who is Mohamed Bazoum, and this is for the military junta to allow him to leave for a third country, its foreign minister said. So, this is crazy. He's not going to be released. And of course, I bet right now this military juntas understand what we've been facing in Africa and what they're trying to install back, because I've seen them also working on creating one currency. This is just super, super amazing. This is something positive to report from these three countries, while unlike the rest of us who are still struggling, with the so-called independence, well, we can clearly see true independence being installed in the three Western nations. But on this other end, before I get to read what before I get confused, I see Burkina Faso and Niger have followed Mali in announcing that they have withdrawn from international force known as G5 that was set up to fight Islamists in the Sahel region. And of course, this is something amazing, because we know that the group was never formed in the first and foremost intentions of it, not to protect the terrorism that has been happening in the country, but literally to continue making the civilians go through hell. They're saying that all three countries are run by military rulers following coups who have formed their own mutual defense pact, and their so-called alliance of Sahel states was signed in September. But you hear how they're calling them, even the reports, they're really reporting with a lot of disguise in them, like the so-called alliance of Sahel states was signed in September. But Chad and Mauritania are still part of the G5 force, which is meant to be made up of about 5,000 soldiers. And I bet Chad is going to actually be the next country holding, attempting a coup, or rather a revolution. Personally, that's how I feel. Chad, literally believe another Western African country is going to be next, because you can see Guinea Bissau already doing it. So I believe there's more yet to happen. People there really understand, or the poverty, should say, has become enough. and people are willing to support whoever is going to take power and lead them correctly. They're saying, but Chad and Mauritania are still part of the G5, which is meant to be made up of about 5,000 soldiers. A statement from the military-led government of Burkina Faso and Niger was critical of the G5 for failing to make Sahel region safer, which is true. And it also suggested that the anti-jihadist force undermined the two African nations' desires for greater independence and dignity. I keep on talking about dignity. I love the way I keep on talking about dignity as African people. Dignity. This is why I think I keep on saying, even you as a celebrity, just to switch up a little bit, you should be very careful when someone is using your name, or even you as a person, anyone trying to terminate your name. That is your dignity. Literally, take care of it. You should take care of it. Okay? But yes, they're saying the desire, it also suggested that the anti-jihadist force undermined the two African nations' desire for greater independence and dignity, and was serving foreign interest instead, which is true. I mean, where's the lie? They almost certainly meant France, and relations with the former colonial power have dramatically deteriorated. The big question is what impact this will have on the Islamist militant group. None. Okay? It will have no effect. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger withdrawing from the Islamist militant group will have no effect. So the question should be, is Africa finally becoming independent? Yes, we are. Is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger trying to show what the rest of the African nations and these puppets who've been installed, what power looks like? What has been working, what has not been working? Yes, that is the answer. But let me read that again. They're saying the big question is, what will this have on the Islamist? What impact will this have on the Islamist militant groups that have been growing in strength across Sahel region? So far, there is no evidence to suggest that having soldiers in charge of the country makes the population any safer from the threat of Al-Qaeda and IS-linked fighters. That is what the BBC News is telling us. But personally, I do support Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Let's not forget, Russia has our back, or rather, Russia has their back. Literally, Russia has Africa's back as a continent. It's just that the rest of the African nations need to realize the way the Western nations are moving. But it won't, or we won't. So long as we have people like Tinubu, who is fighting Niger. We saw him cut electricity at the moment Niger claimed independence. And of course, it was the newly selected puppet who's currently serving so well, because we are expecting on the 10th of this month for them to have a meeting about climate change. That is in Nigeria. Mind you, the first meeting was held in Kenya. As we have activists across Africa fighting this, they're still pushing ahead with the mission. So personally, support the motion. This is something positive. I don't know about you guys, how you feel, but this is positive to see what Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger is doing. Literally, and to add on it, I've seen also Burkina Faso has banned the French newspaper. That was during the weekend. That was actually yesterday. Yeah, they're saying that the military rulers in Burkina Faso have suspended distribution of the French daily newspapers. It's called Le Monde. Pardon my French. I don't know the French. So they're saying that over an article on a deadly Islamist attack in the northern parts of the country. This is something I reported on Monday, where we had 40 civilians being killed. But apparently Burkina Faso claimed that this is a false information that is being spread out by the newspapers that is controlled by France. They're saying that the communication minister, Rimtable Guine, described the article about an attack on military bases, a week ago as biased, and the UN says at least 40 civilians were killed, whereas the security forces in Burkina Faso spoke as of a few military deaths. The Burkinabe authorities have suspended several French media outlets in recent months, including a broadcaster RFI and political magazine Guinea, Afrique. It's called like that. Yeah. And the relations between Burkina Faso and former colonial power France plummeted after the military seized power in a coup last year, citing failing efforts to squash jihadist insurgency that erupted in 2015. And on Saturday, Burkina Faso and Niger say that they were pulling out of the French-backed G5 Sahel, which I've just reported. So that is what is happening. All positivity literally coming from the western parts of Africa. This is three countries: Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. And I'm literally happy to report this, and I can't wait. I don't know if Nigerians can literally just click in their head and just join Niger's and oust Tinubu. I don't know, especially these people being in the most, sorry, Africa looks the same, but the poverty in Nigeria still blows my mind. Pardon me, but it does. I didn't know it was this bad. It's not shown as that bad, but the same people control the media. Of course, they even control the Hollywood. It's called the Nollywood movies. We didn't understand our media is controlled. Who gets to direct even these movies? How you get to get the paycheck? How you get to get on the limelight? All that. But behind the image being put out is crisis. People are living in hell. We are fantasizing. It just, you become a village girl from Kenya and go meet a Nigerian and you're okay. Come on, baby. You deserve better. You deserve better. But shout out to Joe Mosquito. I see you on TikTok. Hope you're doing amazing. I hope you had a beautiful weekend. And of course, shout out to also Mark Machuz, sorry. Hashtag the baller. And shout out to Ganala Bakiale. Karibu sana. My name is Joby, and this is the Pan-African Bliss. And you're listening to the Blackout Fire Network radio station, the number one international online radio station. It is 41 minutes past 1. I don't know what's the time, but I'd love to remind you again, if in case you don't have our app and you're right here on YouTube, kindly rush to Google Play Store. 1 minute of your time, do download our app, and of course, do create your own profile. And we give you the opportunity also to be able to post any videos, articles that you find that are very informative to us, especially as Black people, on the show page, on the social page, sorry. And of course, you can also purchase with us any merchandise. We do have hoodies. I don't know the weather on your end, but you can also get yourself some Marvin, some t-shirts, anything of your type or of your like. So do take time and get to do that. But moving on, speaking of Nigeria, I want to read this of the Nigerian president. And of course, like I promised, I want to read an article regarding the coups that have been happening in Africa. We want to track back for how long and since when did they start? And when were they high? Because I've seen there are times that literally coup in Africa happened a lot. In 1950, we had about 45 coups. Between 1960 to 1970, there was also a lot of coups. And this, as you can see, is an attempt of literally, especially in the African continent, break free. Independence is what these countries back and forth have been seeking, because we're not independent. The West doesn't want to accept this. France won't accept this. The British also won't accept this without a fight. And this is why I'm literally proud to see our unity, because we keep on talking about unity. We've seen so many messages being spread about how Africa we can conquer. Unity. And shout out to the Burkinabe junta, Ibrahim. I saw a video of him during the weekend teaching children. Shout out to him. This guy is he's even dedicating his time to go speak to children in schools. I think there's one thing I can say he's trying to fight. He spoke about fighting the uniform, which we know is a mode of slavery, but we just have African students always wearing uniform. Who came up with this idea? I kept on wondering, was it a must I put on the uniform? It really used to piss me off. Was it a must we put on the uniform? But that is one of the literally slavery we were left with. Like, we're going to keep on doing what the white man said. We discussed the other time of where children shaving their hair. We've been told to hate our hair, and every time you're going to see a Mzungu, you're going to want to have a hair like that. The miseducation, excuse me. also saw him speak about, I wish I could find the video and share it, but I can't remember on which phone I was watching it, so I can't track it. But he spoke also of changing the system of education, whereby children need to be told their real history, not what they're being told that, you can only prosper when you come from Africa, when you get out of the continent. Like, if I'm from Kenya, I need to go all the way to Los Angeles to make it. I need to go all the way to New York. But nobody teaches you, or them who brought up this system of education, of the racism you're going to face there, especially as a Black person. Nobody teaches that. He really gave a very heavy statement, a very heavy speech. Children were even crying. You could see the smile on their faces at the same time when they had, you're no longer going to have to suffer because of food. Because you know what? We're not only going to grow economically through agriculture, but we're going to ensure every child eats lunch at school, and every home will not be literally suffering because they lack food. You no longer need no aid. Positivity. I was proud to watch that. And it's really making me also proud for once, apart from South Africa report. This is something positive to see what these three countries are literally building. We've longed for this. And finally, it is happening. We can see a step about it, and three countries have already conquered it. I just hope Russia, despite their interest that they will want back, I still hope they can help these three countries develop the way we can see them building the gold refineries. The gold refineries. We have a lot of that is happening through these countries. We've seen the unity that is being formed. But shout out to Frida. I see you. Nice to see you. John Muscuri saying miseducation indeed. It is. Because that is what Africans are being told. You cannot make it in Africa. Well, they don't want to tell us that they have survived through Africa. All the weather we see in the rest parts of the world, not from the continent, is all coming from the continent. And it is literally our people that are working their ass off, pardon me, to make that wealth. We have children who have been denied education because the cost of living is super high. I can't afford school fees, which should be free. It doesn't make sense to me, again, how America, everyone gets free education, but in Africa, the richest continent, we get to pay school fees. Where there's books, pens, everything can be sourced out of here. Not from exporting from China, from Beijing, from nowhere. It is all sourced here. It's so painful and crazy, Let me get to read what Nigeria was saying. Of course, as I get into the article of the Coup, and what other people have to think about this. So during the weekend, I've also seen that Nigeria, that was 16 hours ago, like I was saying, the Nigerian president has called on the release of the ousted president of Niger, who is Mohamed Bazoum. And this is, and for the military junta to allow him to leave the country for a third country, okay? Its foreign ministry said he needs to be released to live for a third country. He should not pay for what he did to the people. He should not literally face justice, or we should not literally face questions, or be questioned about what he has done, the mess he has done for the country, all the debt seeing them taking and no improvement. Nobody should be questioned about that. Nobody should be answerable about that. They're saying Nigeria is the current chair of the region group ECOWAS, of course, that, which has imposed sanctions on the Niger following the July coup that ousted Mohamed Bazoum. ECOWAS has been demanding Bazoum's immediate return to the presidency, but the military junta has kept him in detention and says it may need up to 3 years for a return to civilian rule. Actually, it shouldn't. We are asking, this is what they say, and I quote, we are asking them to release President Bazoum so that he will be allowed to leave Niger. Nigerian foreign minister gave the information, and this is through the mainstream medias, and he says that he will no longer be in custody. He will go to a third country that is mutually agreed, and then we start talking about the removal of the sanctions. So that is what is happening. So I really, at this point, actually, for me, I call on Nigerians, the civilians. The number of the people matters at this point. The fact that we know River Niger, literally Nigeria, because I was listening. Nigeria comes from the source river Niger, which is the largest, biggest river in the western parts of Africa, if I'm not wrong. But before all that, these were all joint regions. And you'll find literally, like we've seen through culture, how we are united even through words. There's a lot that connects back to us and tells us and let us know that we are the same people. For me, I don't see a difference between a Ghanaian and Nigerian, apart from right now. But if I'm to track back from history, that is what I'm speaking on. I don't see the difference between a Ghanaian, a Nigerian, a Nigerian. It's all the same. You just miss different keywords, but you can literally understand each other culture-wise. That is culture-related. Okay? So on this point, or at this point, Nigeria, with the suffering you've had through the presidency of the former president, Buhari. And now the current president, we can see him making a mess already. And even the former presidents. I mean, the country, this country is not only rich in oil, but also other resources. But you're at the poorest people, you know, at least not in Africa, but you're poor. You should be able to copy and paste, or rather see what your neighbors, which is Niger, how they are growing economically, and how right now you'll continue. Because so far we've not seen any Nigerians, demonstrate because of 1, 2, 3 things. Because there is true power that has been installed there and is literally taking actions in serving the best interest of the people. That's how simple I want to keep it. You should be able to understand what is happening in Niger. Nigerians. This is to Nigerians, the citizen, not the president. You should demonstrate on behalf of Niger. You should actually, because it's only the border which has no wall, you should actually unite, form unity, and be able to oust Tinubu. Drop this ECOWAS organization, which is not here to help you. Let them sanction you. And through unity, which is going to force a revolution or a coup in Nigeria, that will bring a formality or a unity again of 4 countries. Talking about Nigeria, Niger now, Burkina Faso, and Mali. But I don't know about Nigerians, man. I don't know. Let me check the level of literacy again in that country. Because Nigeria. Yeah, that's what I asked. So we can see 77. That was by 2021. The level of literacy rate in Nigeria is 77. So if you're really this highly educated, then you should be very smart to understand a few things. Then me always get mad to the fact that these people travel the world. They're always everywhere in every corner. So why is it so hard for you to connect the dots that Africa is all created the same and something needs to be changed? The question is all back to us. But as I get to read this, before I get to now since we're talking about the West still, the attempted coup in Guinea Bissau, I want to read this article, which I found very interesting. And I'd love to know what you guys think about it. I see we got, Yeah, to everyone with us, karibuni sana on both channels and of course on Facebook. So this article is about the coups that have been happening in Africa, and it says the African continent saw a significant increase in coups in the last 3 years, with military figures carrying out takeovers in Gabon, Niger, Burkina Faso, Sudan, Guinea, Chad, and Mali. After Niger's coup in July, the Regional Economic Community of West Africa States, which is the ECOWAS, said it would not tolerate another takeover and implemented tough sanctions and threatened military actions to restore that country's democratically elected government. Huh? I read it as it is. The decision is that the coup in Niger is one of the too many that let me read that again. The decision is that the coup in Niger is one of the too many for the region, and we are putting as a stop to it at this time. We are drawing the line in the sand. This is information given by Abel Fatua, who is the Bloc Commissioner of Political Affairs and Security. And despite the unfilled response from most Western nations, Niger junta remains in power, demonstrating the difficulty of reversing a coup once it has been taken, which, like, I support it. United Nations Secretary Antonio Guterres, General Antonio Guterres, spoke of a pandemic of coups after Sudan's in October 2021, a year in which there were 4 successful government overthrows in Africa and 1 in Yemen. And he, in Yemen, I think Yemen, if I'm not wrong, Yemen. Yeah, and he described an environmental which will some military leaders feel they have total impunity and can do whatever they want because there's nothing that will happen. Literally, this is just another puppet who's can you imagine this? This Antonio Guterres is another puppet who's dictating to puppets of how come on. No, this is a puppet trying to dictate to a truly democratically elected. This is election, because when the coup happened in Niger, the people were in support of it. But the mainstream media, we saw them coming and fueling the gas, telling us how all the civilians are in denial of this. The civilians are complaining this is happening, which is a lie. We saw the civilians in Niger demonstrating for 4 straight days, the UN embassy to leave the country. And we showed or showcased all of this in most of our previous shows. But they continue and say, this is just crazy. The funny part is where Antonio Guterres is literally, or rather has the audacity to say, environment in which some military leaders feel that they have total impunity and can do whatever they want because nothing will happen to them. Who are you talking? Who is you talking? But anyway, before the recent spate of patches, coups in Africa have been declining for much of the past 2 decades. In the 10 years before 2021, there had been on average less than 1 successful coup per year, according to the U.S. researchers Jonathan Powell, formerly at the University of Central Florida, who's consolidated their findings on their arrested dictatorship website. The latest power grabs in Africa have raised concerns that the region could be backsliding from its progress towards greater democracy. That is a lie. We know that. And I found a GDP or a certain charts which gives me of the coups and when and they did happen so much. And like I said, in 1950 to 1970 there was a lot of successful coups. From 1970 to 1980 I also see there was so many successful coups. From 1990 to 2000 there were not really so many. Also 2000 to 2010 there have not been so many successful coups, but in 2010 there were so many. In 2020 there are also a couple of successful coups. So this is something that has happened, or rather has been happening for centuries. The question is why? Since they keep on saying, oh, this is wrong, or we're going to face the consequences of thinking that there's nothing that is going to happen. The question should be brought to the table. Since Africans always be under the table, we want to be on the table this time. We want to understand why you don't understand these coups. You keep on saying this is wrong. We want you to make us understand why it's wrong. Make us understand why it is wrong. Why is it not serving your best purpose? We're friends, right? You say we should rekindle our friendship, but I'm trying to work this my way because your way is not working. And I do this by, number one, withdrawing from the Islamist groups, okay? I'm getting weapons from Russia because you've given me nothing to literally be able to deal with all this terrorism that you've formed a group to fight. Oh, and your terrorists fighters or the troops can't come here and literally impregnate our women. Has anyone been charged about that? Hell no. Such questions should be addressed. And this is why I come and question, and I was doing it. I'm still gonna read much more on it about the International Criminal Court. We know these are made up, another fake organization that has not been working. But it's always on the neck of Africa's business, especially the Africans' business, because that's what I was trying to read today. You'll find the International Criminal Court always involved in the businesses of Africa so much. But to what point, or at which point did they ever bring justice if it's not literally just serving them? Never. That's the answer. They are saying, compared to the world of 492 attempted or successful coups carried out around the world since 1950, Africa has seen 220, the most of any region, with a study given by Powell, the study. Okay, in Africa, I can see that most successful coups have been to 20. The failed ones have been 111. Successful ones, like I read, that is 109. Powell said that these coups happen in Africa because Africa tends to have many of the conditions that are normally associated with coups, and coups have become increasingly limited to the poorest countries in the world. And the recent wave of coups fits into that. Gabon, Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Chad, and Mali all had than 22 billion in GDP. That was in 2022, according to the World Bank estimate, with Sudan having a GDP of 52 billion by comparison with the United States, whose worth of the GDP is 25 trillion. That was by 2022. The countries experiencing ongoing terrorism campaigns and insurgency are also disproportionately more likely to see coups, according to Powell, as well as those nationals that have lack legitimacy in the eyes of their citizens and armed forces. Powell said that while most of the Africans no longer see coups as a threat, it is not. The Sahel region, which includes Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Chad and Sudan, still experience many of the most uncommon factors and lead to coups. He said Niger's background, characteristics, and geography are exactly what we would have expected if they were trying to predict where the next coup would be located. Leaders of Niger coup, as well as those who took over the government in Burkina Faso in September 2022, cited their own government's failure to stem deadly Islamist insurgency in the Sahel as part of the justification of their takeovers. And out of 54 countries of the African continent, 45 have had at least one coup attempt since 1950. And yeah, that is true. Since 1950, you can see literally every year there's an attempted coup. According to the data collected by Powell, narrowing the focus to only those countries that have experienced a successful takeover, one in which perpetrators hold power for at least 7 days, and the number drops to 37, or about 2/3 of the nation on the continent. Okay. Let me continue. They're saying that a coup is an illegal. This is how they describe a coup. A coup is an illegal takeover, or it's an illegal and overt attempt by military or other elites within the state apparatus that to unseat the sitting executive. To unseat the sitting executive. To unseat the sitting executive. That is how they describe the coup. But for me, I describe the coup as a truly installation of true democracy. Because look at these three countries, how they are literally growing right now. Through unity, which we keep on saying, if African countries united, we have nothing to depend on. We will not be sanctioned about anything because one, we have everything. We might need a little help in 1, 2, 3 things, but that is in building our own that we've been denied for so long. I'm talking about manufacturing industries, refinery projects, refinery houses and all that, however you want to call them. Literally, we need all the development back here in the continent. And after that, we no longer need no help. If you're not getting value back from what we are exporting, importing, then we don't want no deals. But as a continent, by that time, when I'm speaking about where we've claimed independence. But once again, I want to congratulate these countries. I want to read the whole article. Basically, they're trying to explain how many coups have been there since 1950. How every year we have so many coups that have been attempted. You can see since 1950, at least 45. Since 1950, there have been at least one coup attempt since 1945 in, I think, every year that has been successful. But if you get to read, I was trying to literally read a couple of articles here, them unveiling more about the coups, but I'll share much of it maybe tonight on the Africa Today show. But as I get to wind up, the reason why I was reading this is because of what is happening, of course, in Guinea Bissau, where in Guinea Bissau, the president said there have been heavy gunfires that broke out in the capital. That was on Friday as an attempted coup did take over. And of course, he had been out of the country at the time, attending the UN's COP28 climate conference in Dubai. And like I said last time, personally saw in Kenya, where there was suspicions of an attempted coup in Congo, and I think also Gabon. There were actually 3 countries at the time. All these presidents were not in the country. So personally, for me, what I clicked on this is that the citizens actually, I think they're trying or finally understanding these people are always in and out of the country, but there's nothing ever literally moving for the interest of the people. It's always loans we're talking about, climate change we're talking about, and nonsensical speeches that don't add up. And nobody pays attention to when these even presidents are giving the speeches. This is the second time I'm seeing this, an attempted coup when the president is not in. So from me to that, I understand that people are literally tapping into information and they're getting tired. But they had up and say that speaking on Saturday, President Umaro Sisco Embalo promised serious consequences for the perpetrators, of course, because you are a selected president. This is the second foiled coup against his leadership in under 2 years, and the unrest began late on Thursday evening into Friday mid-morning. A man described as a leader of a group of soldiers who tried to free a detained minister and a senior state official in Guinea-Bissau has been caught. The military says the members of the National Guard had taken the officials before seeking refuge in barracks south of the east. Special forces have intervened after attempt of negotiation failed, resulting in exchange of gunfire. Calm is said to have been restored later, and a finance minister, whose name I'm not gonna read, and the Secretary of the State for the Treasury had been detained amid the investigation into the alleged irregular withdrawal of $10 million of state funds. And that is what is happening in Guinea-Bissau. There was an attempted coup, and of course, personally, I believe they're not gonna stop it. If this is how Africa is gonna move to restore independence, then I believe it's too late, because there's so far attempts in every African country. There has been an attempt of a coup. And this has been happening due to history. We can see this is since 1950. But my question is, because I've seen, actually, if you check the GDP of the world, which my focus for me is the Africa. I was trying to see in Africa how many they are. You can see in the European nations how many they have been. It's literally giving statistics of everything, however you want to say it. Let me see. Let me get to read this if I can find it. Yeah, I can see in Africa it was 220, the attempted ones. In Latin America, there have been 146. In East Asia, there has been 49. In Middle East, there has been 44. In Europe, there has been 17. In Southern Asia, there has been 16. So globally, we've had 492 attempted coups. But in Africa, majorly, we have 220, 109 successful, 111 that have failed. So if this has been happening all through historically, then I believe actually Africa, so long as actually if everyone is going to be able to tap into the waking up realm, and of course waking up into information, understanding politics, not fighting politics or saying this does not involve me, then I believe it's going to be unstoppable. That is how I feel. It's going to be unstoppable, because how literally inflation is catching up with people. And also, I believe where you are, you're feeling the heat, because it's globally, people are getting tired. So they're going to be revolution in every state where people are. But my major focus being Africa, I'm positive through the western parts of Africa, the rest of the African countries are going to see or seek revolution, or we're going to have to take back power into our hands by force. That is my closing remarks on it. But I see John Mosquito says, they call the Nigerian president Rick of all ages, because he's older than that. Lol. He's really, really old, because that guy is really wrinkled. And I also see John Mosquito saying 55% are higher than I expected. Yes. I also, yeah, we can say so. Shout out to you for Cash Money. Thank you so much for tapping the screen. And what else? And to everyone who has been passing by right here with us on TikTok. Joe, I see Samuel is saying that, he is one of the sellout leaders. He is, man. He is. And this is why you see he's threatened, because he knows he was a selected puppet, and that's why the people are trying to overthrow you. Because why would I try to overthrow someone who has been literally doing correctly by me as a civilian? They claim these coups are illegal, but this is not illegal. This is what we call true democracy, where people are seeking it, because you've never given it. True independence, where nobody's going to tell us how to do it. It's all about us first, not the Mzungu first. Because with these other puppets, it's always been the interest of the West first, and even where the citizens' interest have never been included, never even been considered. If it's not in terms of that, who you're going to be the ones paying through the high taxation, then I don't know who. But family, I'm coming to the end of my today's show. Asanteni sana for everyone who has been with me. And of course, this has been the Pan-African Bliss episode of today. See you guys tomorrow, same time, same place, different discussions. Of course, that has been my topic. I've been discussing about the West, what has been happening in South Africa, where we've seen child trafficking. In case you've missed the whole episode, kindly do catch it on a replay. I'd love to hear your thoughts regarding what is happening in South Africa. Do you think, serious investigations, and due to the fact that we don't have courts in Africa that take matters serious when it comes to justice, we cannot depend on the International Criminal Court to literally get us, or rather serve us, justice. We know it's a fake organization. And so I've read the rest of these courts. What should happen? Because enough is enough. All these reports of negativity from the continent needs to stop. We need to start reporting positivity of like what we've seen today coming from the West, where it's all about power being taken back, not about our people being tortured. Much love. This is Sunina by Otile Brown. Asanteni sana once again. See you guys later on the Rhythm Scoop Show. We shall be coming back with them arts, entertainment, and culture. Come back and of course join Katie on the African Diary. Yeah, And kindly, if you remember where those children who are found on a plane, kindly remind me, was it in Chad or Malawi? I'd really love to hear. Was it in Chad or Malawi where we had a number of children rescued on a plane? Then the government claimed, we don't know where they're coming from. I want to relate. Not Uganda. No, it's Uganda. There's a country in the West that was found with children on the plane. Then the government said that, our Jui Kulo ametoka. I'd love to hear that. Kindly on the WhatsApp chat, pin it for me. I look for the video.
Somina Unanibamba sukitoto Fanya haraka uwai Inauroso umepitiliza Polo migo Tamu chokoleto Umeuma mepatia Siya yamnaya kwa siya You can count on me love Ukinitaji nipo